The non-binary ex-Biden official Sam Britton was on a secret taxpayer-funded trip at the time of his luggage theft. What an unbelievably fun story here. So yes, Sam Britton of the Department of Energy was on a tax-funded trip at the time when he stole the luggage that was, or the incident where it was actually captured on footage in Nevada. I can't believe I said Nevada. Who says Nevada? It's Nevada.
You do.
No, What's
Nevada.
wrong with me? No, it's Nevada.
Okay.
I don't know. It was like a speech
Chicago.
impediment moment
Let's
there
not
for a
do this.
moment
It's
there.
Nevada.
But yeah, so the trip was caught on camera. I believe this is the third time, or at least he's been accused 3 times of taking suitcases from women and then wearing
and convicted
their clothing
twice.
around.
Let's remember.
And he's been convicted of this
he's
twice.
gone 2 out of 3.
So it wasn't enough that he was on a taxpayer-funded trip. He also had to get free luggage. So I guess one question I have is, does this guy just not pack a bag before he goes on these trips? And maybe the reason that like he's ended up just wearing different clothing isn't just like self-expression, as he would put it, but it's like, this is what's in the luggage. You just get luggage from the airport and then you put the clothes on and like the clothing that was in the luggage.
Well, Eva, how much is he stealing to continually find clothes that fit? Like, is he just playing a numbers game, or is he doing the Buffalo Bill thing of where he'll go, are you about size 14? Club, and then get the pre-select for the person?
I have no idea, but I don't think he's spending all that much time thinking about the luggage he gets, because there was a hilarious story a little while ago. Hannah Claire and I were talking about this before we went on air, but it was basically determined that the clothing that he was wearing was clothing which came from the suitcase of a woman who was a fashion designer.
Yes.
Yeah, so she had made a bunch of different beautiful dresses for a fashion expo. She went from Tanzania, or she's from Tanzania originally.
She's based in Houston. She's Tanzanian and traveled to DC. Was supposed to show her clothes as sort of a business deal for her, and couldn't do it because her bag went missing at Reagan Airport. And when she heard about Sam Britton's arrest, she said, I'm going to look this up, and recognize the clothes that he has been wearing, because they're not just run-of-the-mill. You can get them at the Gap. They are very unique. Meanwhile, so she went on Twitter for this, and it was just like, I was shortly thereafter contacted by the FBI, who was like, please give us more information. And then after that, I don't know if they're actually connected, but Sam Britton was arrested as a fugitive from justice. He lives in Maryland because he works for DC, in connection to someone's luggage going missing from a DC airport.
Yeah.
And I find this to be so funny, because what were the odds? I mean, it wasn't like he just wore them, casually to the office. He went on to like the Trevor Projects had him on for some award, and he's wearing this thing. Can you imagine being this woman being like, I not just own that, I made that. That is my piece of clothing.
But shouldn't we as a nation all share with one another, Hannah Claire? Don't you think it's a bit stingy for her to say that this is just hers?
We talked about the toothbrush thing last night. I don't know.
It's like I always say, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Might I quote Norm Macdonald here, and that sounds like some bleep commie gobbledygook. I'd also like to draw attention to Sam Britton. Again, I'm just going to go on the ad hominem, Ian, because you're setting a fantastic example. That mugshot is the sleep paralysis demon that I see in my name.
Was he wearing designer clothes?
I feel like Matt Damon could play that guy. He's a little older now, but they look
would he
similar.
want to? Do you think it could be an interesting kind of thriller? Yeah,
dude. Lex Friedman made a hilarious observation. It wasn't even a joke. He's like, you go to the airport, you wait for 2 hours, standing in line, taking your shoes off, taking your bag out, and then when you get out of the airport, you get all done. Just take whatever bag you want.
Yeah.
And it's true. There's like, you could walk out of there with like 40 bags. I mean, if you have more than one, someone will probably be like, hey, but there's no security at the bags. They just come out and anyone can grab anything. It's crazy.
It's a bizarre
You know what, though?
system.
I hear you, but please don't give them any ammunition to make the airport more of a hassle. With that, like, I think the baggage thing is us saying this is a price we are willing to pay to just not have to deal with the TSA anymore, not have to deal with any more bureaucracy. Just let me go. I'm off the plane. Let me leave.
But we didn't even need that level of bureaucracy when we were a higher trust society, and when we started mainstreaming degeneracy and importing incompatible cultures where high trust is not that same thing, the social texture phrase. And so you need increasing levels of bureaucracy to micromanage the behaviors of a dependent population.
And I would agree with you, but it's not even just that. I mean, these bureaucracies aren't even effective at combating what they're there to protect us from. The TSA has failed like 98% of its audits to try to prevent.
They're staffed by incompetent diversity hires like this.
Oh,
so
my
fortunately,
goodness.
they decide to out themselves. I mean,
I'm sorry, he is one of our leading nuclear minds in this country. I don't know what you're talking about.
oh yeah,
I mean,
he lost all his hair from the radiation poisoning.
Yeah, seriously. No, but I mean, I think it's worth pointing out that you were saying before, is he just following people around and guessing that they're his size? He is specifically looking for female luggage. One of the examples was he stole a duffel bag, but I believe was Vera Bradley. If you know Vera Bradley, it's all very feminine prints. This person is specifically targeting women to steal from them. This is bizarre, and yet the Biden administration just tried to pretend it wasn't happening. They sort of said, "Oh well, it's not employed by us." Like, we couldn't say, and now we know that actually he was acting this way while on duty for the government.
So well, look, I mean, come on, stealing luggage, sniffing kids, they're not that far outside of one another in terms of like a defiance of normal behavioral expectations. So I don't even think it's the Biden administration's worst scandal by any stretch of the imagination.
It's not. Isn't that
crazy?
And
it's not the weirdest thing. And by scandal, I'm not saying, well, there are worse scandals because there's political corruption. No, I'm just talking about like the weird things people in the Biden administration have done. I don't even think this is the weirdest thing. We have a vice president who cackles over Venn diagrams and who loves yellow school buses and gleefully exclaims it like she's a children's presenter on PBS who's also pro-population control.
They put a Satanist in charge of monkeypox response. I mean...
Did they? Well, this is, I mean, and of course the monkeypox thing, we won't get too much into detail about that just because
it's a family-friendly show.
It is a family-friendly show. But I just find it interesting that the thing that is associated with the spread of monkeypox was like the one thing that we were not willing to prohibit because we believe so deeply in human freedom and political liberty, when we were willing to tell people not to go to their jobs or to visit loved ones in the hospital or attend funerals for loved ones during the COVID pandemic. It just shows you where the priorities of the regime are.
We just don't want to be bigoted. I mean, I think it's worth noting, we sort of talked about this before the show, but Sam Brinton is openly, I don't know, gender fluid, all sorts of interesting hobbies. He was featured in like a kink magazine. I find it not at all surprising that this person is clearly not bound by any social norms or values.
Exhibitionist kleptomaniac.
Right.
Yes. Okay, that's important.
Open about this. He does not believe in the world that you live in. He does not believe in anything else. I'm sure I am getting his pronouns wrong. Of course, he's stealing bags everywhere. This last like moment of trust that we all take our own bags off the carousel does not apply to him because he doesn't need to be a part of that. And it's hard for me not to read a level of entitlement into this.
Yeah, a level of entitlement. I mean, I think that's true whenever you see somebody defying social expectations, which are otherwise reasonable and acceptable and make sense. Every now and again, I get that there are barriers that need to be broken down, right? You know, I like the idea of Chesterton's fence. When you find a fence, figure out what it was for before you tear it down. And sometimes, you know, maybe that fence is for something bad and it's okay to tear it down. I'm not saying no one should ever defy expectation. But what I am saying is when someone is defying expectations, when they're tearing down fences that very clearly have a person, of course there's a sense of entitlement there.
Do you guys know what happened to Sam Brinton or what his status is right now? Was he arrested?
He got arrested at his home in Maryland most recently. So with the bag stolen in Vegas, he was convicted. He had to pay a fine. In Minnesota, a similar thing, brought up on charges. There was a fine, but also he had to undergo mental health evaluations as part of sort of a deal to lessen the charges against him. I haven't gotten an update on what happened with the arrest in Maryland, which is connected to the D.C. airport, which presumably is this woman in Houston, unless there are more missing bags that we don't know about.
You said he fled. He was a fugitive of justice at some point.
That was what he was arrested under, and I'm not sure how they're interpreting it.
I see.
I'm surprised he had to undergo a mental health examination because I can just take one look at him and see he's clearly sane. I mean, yeah.
I think that's why they're like, how could such a sane, healthy individual like you get into stealing bags? We just can't understand it.
So we actually in Britain have had two recent scandals of married men with children who have been on TV stations for a very long time. One was a newsreader, the other one hosted a daytime TV show. They have claimed mental health scares once they've been caught trying to solicit photos or hook up with young men of teenage questionable age.
Wow.
Yes. And one of them tried to get out ahead of it about a year and a half ago by saying that, I'm coming out as gay and isn't this brave? And then it turns out that he was having an affair with someone on the set. So
I have to come out as brave because otherwise you might think I'm a terrible creep.
Yeah, exactly. And what they end up doing is they retreat into saying, this is, one, it's homophobic to criticize this, and two, I've been checked into the hospital for a mental health emergency. So we're going to leave this story alone for a while.
Yeah, you have to leave me alone. This is another important part of it, right? I mean, look, no one is like making the argument that every single person who struggles with any kind of perversion is trying to attack children. But the reality is, if you have they, them pronouns next to your name, any predatory behavior that you engage in is going to be defended by the media and by the left. And anyone who points out that you're doing something suspicious is going to be labeled a bigot.
But at some point, you have to actions speak for themselves. That is the way of the world. That is, if we want to survive as a species, you cannot be like, well, you hurt all those people. Okay, like, no, man, if something you did, and this goes for leadership as well, if something you did causes maybe a surrender in Afghanistan and the death of children and people trying to flee the country, being beheaded, like, you're on the hook for that. You can't just be like, oh, I was 85 years old and I wasn't thinking about it. Like, I want some responsibility for these behaviors. I have empathy for people with mental health issues for sure, but at some point, you got to be realistic about it.
Yeah, I mean, I have compassion for people who have mental health issues. I don't have like that much compassion for the people who elect them.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.